Hello.
Oh, hey Claire, great to see you.
So honored, France, to be on your show, as I'm calling it,
And podcast.
and
Yeah,
podcast.
great to have you.
I'm
So for
deeply
those
honored.
not who aren't familiar, my name is France Roy. I host discussions with Kadampa Buddhist practitioners around the world with different angles on their practice, thoughts on things. I am professionally the CTO of Balsam Brands. And I teach meditation classes in New York City, Kadampa Meditation Center in New York City. And today I'm here with Claire.
So good to be with you, France. I'm a big fan, as you know. And so, and CTO, Chief Technology Officer,
Yeah.
pretty cool role to be doing this, I think. Obviously, you have all the tech skills to know how to do this. So I'm Clare Morin, and I am professionally, well, I've spent the past 20 years, I started as a journalist. I grew up in Hong Kong. I'm British. I have a weird accent. So just to get that out of the way, born in the north of England, grew up in Hong Kong, worked in Hong Kong for the first decade of my career as a journalist, arts writer, um, married a Mainer, moved to Maine, 2009. I live in Maine, in the forest, by a stream. And since then, I've had to reinvent myself first as a publicist and then for artists and awesome thinkers. And then I became a content marketer. So most recently, I was sort of helping build a content marketing engine and a big employee benefits provider called Unum. And I'm currently at the end of a sabbatical.
Very fun.
So that's my quick. Oh, and then Dharma wise, I started studying in Hong Kong, Knampa Meditation Center, Hong Kong, about
Yeah.
20 years ago, which is dating me somewhat. And then I moved to Maine and I'm a student at Knampa Meditation Center, Boston. And so we have a little branch and I teach here in Portland, kind of
Yeah.
weekly classes.
Very nice. Cool. And so yeah, let's discuss start with thoughts on how to bring meditation in the workplace.
Yeah, great. So I've been thinking about this a lot because I am a meditator who has been in the workplace for many years. And I thought it might be fun to start with definition of meditation, right? So, the amazing, extraordinary teacher we both, his teachings we study, Geshe Kelsang Gyatso Rinpoche. So his definition of meditation, I'm actually going to read. Hold on. Do you mind? Unless you can recite it off the top of your head, which you can. How to transform your life. Hold on,
Nice.
I've got to find. I'm not prepared, France. I'm sorry. What is meditation? It's a mind. I've nearly in the back of this amazing book. What is meditation? Meditation is a mind that is single-pointedly focused on a virtuous object and whose function is to make the mind peaceful and calm. Whenever we meditate, we are performing a mental action that will cause us to experience inner peace in the future. So a mind that's single-pointedly focused on a virtuous object and whose function is to make the mind peaceful and calm. And when we meditate, we're performing a mental action that will cause us to experience inner peace in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, what's like revolutionary and astounding about that is it's a mind that's single-pointedly focused on a virtuous object.
Yeah.
And what is a virtuous object? How would you answer that?
Um, I would say any object that makes our mind peaceful and calm. And I think it's
Mm-hmm.
helpful to give examples to illustrate. I think the one people most can easily understand is, for example, a feeling of love, affectionate love, like when you feel
Mm-hmm.
connected to someone, have a warm heart.
Mm-hmm.
That, I mean, generally you wouldn't think of that as a meditation object. You think like, oh, I have to meet the right person to, or
Mm-hmm.
be with my friends and family, and then I feel some affection, especially when they're being nice to me. But when we learn that that's a state of mind that we can cultivate internally,
Yeah.
develop, and then hold on to as an object of meditation, we can see, I think it's an example that illustrates how it's a virtuous mind. It's a mind that when we have it, it makes our mind peaceful, calm, happy,
Yeah.
and is a principal cause of happiness.
Right. Right. Brilliant. And exactly like loving kindness, like holding a feeling of love. So that's meditating, right? That's the
Yeah.
definition of meditating.
Yeah.
So what's so cool about that is it's training in familiarizing our mind constantly with positive states of mind, right? So
Yeah.
that's us meditating.
Yeah.
And so for me, that makes, when we say if I'm a meditator in the workplace, it doesn't just mean, and by the way, the last workplace I was working at had a meditation room. I mean, unbelievable
That's so
resource.
cool.
Unbelievable, the coolest. I documented it on LinkedIn at one point. I was like, this is like unbelievable. So you can literally run there and you can literally close a curtain and press a button on the wall for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and a light is going to come on at the end to finish your
Oh,
meditation.
really?
How
Oh,
nice is
wow. That's
that?
so clever. Yeah. I love
So shout out to
that.
Unum for the meditation space. But anyway, no, who else has that resource at work? I mean,
Yeah.
very few. And so maybe you think, oh, if you're a meditator at work, you go to the bathroom or you go to your car. But no, actually, you can be in a meeting meditating in the sense that you're like, I'm focusing on their good qualities. I'm focusing on, do you know what I mean? In a
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
maybe something's challenging, but you're you're training your mind in that moment, right? So
Yeah.
to me, that's with Geshe-la's in definition of meditation. I think even it's become such a buzzword, hasn't it? Thank goodness. Hooray. Like,
The very good buzzword.
how nice that it's so popular, right? Even our lifetimes, I think when I was born, it was still very unusual, right? So that's great, it's everywhere as buzzword, but maybe still some people have a feeling of, oh, it's like tuning out, right? Or it's relaxing. And
Right.
but then this definition, which obviously coming from like centuries and centuries and thousands of years of Buddhist masters, like, oh no, that's what it is. So that's why I think it's great it's getting into workplaces as a concept.
Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
That just reminded me of a coworker one time. We were going through a difficult time. She was a peer, and there like one of the people on her team left, and there were quite a few people like leaving the company. And she was like asking me, how do you keep so like calm and like chill about things? Do you just not care? And there's
Ooh.
like it's such a great question because there's that book of like the subtle art of not giving a what about things, and it's just like, is that is that a method to just like be able to deal with things? And my answer was actually no, it's not that. Actually, I do care. I care about the people. I care about the company. I want everybody to be successful. But the one thing I remember is that everything is always changing, and there's nothing you can
Mm,
do to stop things from changing. People are going to be leaving, people are going to be growing, wanting better opportunities. The company's always going to be in a different position.
yeah.
And the thing, that's a meditation object, actually. It's one of our main meditation objects, a meditation on impermanence, remembering that
Mm,
everything is going to change. There's nothing in our life we can, that's going to stay as it is. There's no way to keep things from changing. And when we accept that, it allows us to stay peaceful and deal with life. It's instead of being like I
mm,
don't know, like if life is like a river, we're trying to, I don't know, plant ourselves in the stream and just stay there when everything's constantly
mm,
moving. And so meditation from that perspective is about, how we think about things, the attitudes we have, living more and more in accordance with reality. And there's so many opportunities in our job, in our relationships, in our life, and to like see the truth of these insights and deepen them within ourselves.
totally.
Yeah.
My goodness. And that's, I mean, right now, the corporate America or globally, I mean, AI, I'm talking to a chief technology officer, so I don't even need to begin to tell you about the exponential change that is occurring right now.
Yeah, for sure.
The pace of change, like it's bonkers, like it's shredding. And it's coming for the creative economy, right? Or the white
Totally.
collar workers massively. It's already, it hit a lot of people out there on their feet doing work maybe 10 years ago, right? But now it's definitely, you know, coming in with Chat GPT and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
to me, I'm just like, thank goodness I started this meditation thing, because you're training in letting go of distractions, you're training in letting go of old ways of thinking, right? You're training in letting go of negativity.
Yeah.
But to your point, impermanence, any job right now, I think the key And this is what they're all saying, because I got to interview a lot of futurists and HR people. And they're
Yeah.
basically saying, adapt. Like Jason Averbook, amazing thought leader. I interviewed him last year, and it just struck me because his word for 2024 was adapt. But then he defined it and he said it means unlearn. Unlearn. We have to learn how to unlearn, right?
Right.
And I think that's basically what meditation is,
Yeah.
because we're learning how to unlearn like lifetimes worth of negative habits,
Yeah.
right? And like learn new groove ways for the thinking.
Exactly.
So it feels almost like in today's like labor market, if you're not meditating, you're actually at quite a disadvantage just in terms of being able to your point, stay calm amidst so much change, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and it's an interesting thing because, I've been for years doing agile transformations where you're moving towards, like basically an environment of thinking everything's always changing. And
Wow.
how do you learn from what's happened, in the past 2 weeks, for example, and then in the next 2 weeks, how do you change and adapt and do things better? It's like this continuous improvement
Mm.
mindset. And that, I love it because it fundamentally gels with impermanence, right?
Yeah.
Things are always changing. And like you said, now things are changing dramatically. It's not that things are changing like day to day. It's like fundamentally how we work is changing,
Hmm.
and the world is moving towards it. And you're either, like I was saying, the river flowing, and you're either
Hmm.
going down the river and adapting with it, or you have resistance to change. And I think that's where
Yeah.
the actual problem that we have, as we say, our inner problem. There's the outer
Mm.
problem of like the world is changing, people are, leaving, whatever it is. That's you can, if someone's leaving on your team, you can fix that by hiring someone else. But when we have an inner problem of like, I like that person. I don't want them to go. I want to
Mm.
keep them, or what, or maybe anxiety, because how is this going to um affect me? I'm gonna have to do more work. I'm gonna have to hire someone. And
Mm.
then the inner problem of anxiety, worry, what we call like permanent grasping, right? Like
Yeah.
wishing for things to stay the same, which is literally an impossible wish.
Right.
there's just
Right.
it is a wish that many people have. We all have it at different times, but it's like fundamentally out of accordance with reality, the reality that
Right.
things always
Right.
change. And so by recognizing that this truth, things always change, we can like come to accept these things in a way that solves the inner problem, that removes, which
Yeah.
is a whole thing in the workplace about mental health. And
Oh, yeah.
why do you need mental health is because we have these inner problems, anxiety, worry, that come because the outer world is constantly changing, and either we're
Mm.
not adapting, or we don't know, maybe we don't feel like we can handle it. And as a result, there's some inner problem. So that's why I think meditation is crucial, not just like, of course, for sitting 10, 15 minutes with your eyes closed to train your mind, but how do you integrate those ways of thinking and those ways of being and like living life to to keep our mind peaceful all the time.
Exactly. And that's why you kind of invited me on this, but I spent many years interviewing people, and I'm really glad when you invited me because I genuinely am interested in you as a chief technology officer, right? Because I just think that's fascinating. Um, but then the Buddhist practice, and then being in today's world of work, there's so much uncertainty too, right? Like unbelievable amounts of uncertainty. And yeah, to your point, mental health. I mean, I was very close to all the data for a few years, and it's heartbreaking, utterly heartbreaking. And but then the difficulty is, there's a lot of work, right? It feels like everyone's workload's increasing. And so I do think obviously organizations have jobs to do to help work on this, but I also do think for me, the most freeing thing about learning to meditate, learning Buddhist meditation in particular, was like Shantideva's analogy. So he's like 10th century, 9th, 8th
Eighth
century,
century.
8th
I only know
century.
because someone else just said it
Okay.
to me.
Buddhist master from
Yeah.
India, Shantideva, like he wrote Guide to Bodhisattva's Way of Life, one of the most famous poems that's like a book length. Um, So his analogy of the sandals, which you brought up, I think, in one of your, because it's so good, right? So the idea of, I think he said at the time, like one way to walk around, I don't know, thorny ground and rough ground is you can cover a whole earth in leather. So maybe we say vegan leather nowadays. So that's one way, right? Then anywhere you go on the mountains, you know, you're so comfortable because it's all covered in leather. But then he says, or you could just cover your feet, right? And shoes, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same end result. Wherever we go, our feet are comfortable. And I've been thinking about this because this is 8th century India. Not everybody had shoes. How many people had shoes in 8th century India? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe everyone did, but I'm assuming quite a lot of people didn't. And I've walked around my garden without shoes on, and that's the garden. I mean, New York City, France. I don't know if you could get a block without shoes on. I don't think so. So in other words,
you would want to.
Right. Yeah, Maine, a bit easier. But the analogy itself, it hurts, right? If you're trying to cross Times Square without, I mean, it's just horrible. So shoes, fine, and you're fearless and you can go anywhere. So in the same way, we can either try to control the whole world, our job, try to control the whole company and the entire industry, like you said, or we can control our mind. And that if we can learn to control our mind, put us anywhere, and we can actually be at peace in any environment. So to me, that was like, whoa, that is like, that's what we need to learn to do. And it's not saying suddenly everything's easy, right? So to your point, like everyone's trying to balance workloads, and then people are leaving, or that, right? Or disruption or reorg. And that stuff still is going to keep happening. But then I think, how do you keep peaceful mind? And the point is, Buddha showed you can, right? Yeah. But you do need to learn the methods, which is why I think learning the, like Lamrim, we call it, right? So coming from now 11th century India into Tibet, from a teacher, he did this extraordinary thing of condensing it down into all of Buddha's teachings into these core, like 21 meditations.
Yeah.
And then you can learn those and then learn how to, anyway.